going to start Sunday against the Saints for the Philadelphia Eagles. Jeff, what's your reaction to this news?
Yeah, I'm not surprised, but I would say I'm a little bit disappointed in what's happened to Carson Wentz. I mean, when you think about all this is getting laid at his feet, and obviously as a $100 million quarterback, it's going to do that. It's going to fall to you. But I'm not sure that the Eagles' offense is really set up to help Jalen Hurts be successful, right? I mean, from a receiving core, it's not like these guys are making a ton of plays. Your offensive line has been just decimated by injuries. I think they've had 10 or 11 different combinations of starters. So from a Jalen Hurts perspective, when you want to see him progress or kind of develop into a quarterback, I would have thought the rotation was still the best opportunity. Obviously, Doug Peterson didn't agree, decided to go wholesale change with Jalen Hurts. And listen, he gave him the spark against Green Bay. You saw it. He made some plays, but again, very small sample size. Nobody's, scripted or game plan defensively for Jalen Hurts. So we'll see how he adapts to all those things. But, disappointing season for Carson Wentz, but the Eagles feel like they got to make a move to try to win now, and that's Jalen Hurts gives them the best chance.
Yeah, you mentioned that spark. Let's play this out. Say Hurts does well. What then do we do about Carson Wentz in Philly?
You got to trade him. I mean, and listen, I mean, it's possible, right? I mean, I think we were talking this morning on Get Up, and I think Dan Graziano he talked about that it's a $34 or $35 million swing, but you could potentially trade him and make some things happen. But that would require Carson Wentz to be kind of ascending, right, Jay? Like when you see a guy descending, there's not a lot of people who want to throw the chips in. So to take him completely off the field, you're not giving a lot of people hope to want to try to trade him. And for the cap number that he's going to hit, I think it's $50 million or some kind of crazy number that he would put against the cap to be released. It's one that he's going to be part of the Eagles organization without a trade. And so, how does he help benefit Jalen Hurts moving forward? Can Jalen Hurts perform at this level? We'll see. Bunch of ifs and questions, I know that, but a lot of money on the table for the Philadelphia Eagles. No doubt about that.
All right, again, our breaking news from Adam Schefter and Chris Mortensen. Jalen Hurts will start for...
And then we got to this franchise. The Lakers believed in us, and they rewarded us with those contracts. It's a great partnership.
So LeBron got the extension. The Lakers re-signing Anthony Davis to rejoin LeBron for next season. Caesars William Hill have the Lakers as 3-1 favorites to win another title. That is ahead of the Bucks, and Nets at 5-1 is the second favorites. And they're plus 140 favorites to win the West. Only the Clippers at plus 250 are even close to that.
You're putting a few American dollars on Golden State to win the West. A healthy Steph Curry is what you're banking on. And speaking of Steph and speaking of bank, Curry saying Monday he's in talks on a contract extension with Golden State. He's 32 years old, signed a 5-year Supermax deal in 2017, and says he wants to retire with the team that drafted him.
I like that. I hope he does.
Yeah, I like that too. I mean, he's in the middle of a $200 million contract, and he's like, maybe another one. Let's slide another one my way.
Hey, Steph, can a brother borrow $20?
Just 20? You're far more modest than I am. Those are your half-hour headlines. Following breaking news here on SportsCenter, not the news that Ohio State wanted. Michigan has canceled its game against Ohio State this Saturday due to positive COVID-19 cases and student-athletes in quarantine in the Wolverines program. Michigan saying in a statement it will continue daily testing with hopes of getting back on the practice field when cleared by medical professionals. It's good to welcome back Paul Feinbaum here on SportsCenter. So, Paul, this news coming in moments ago. And the Big Ten conference rules are clear. 6 wins in order, or rather 6 games played to get into the Big Ten championship game. Now Ohio State doesn't have that. What should the Big Ten do now with regard to 4th-ranked Ohio State?
Well, it seems like the Big Ten has to find a way to rearrange the schedule this weekend, Randy. And I think they will. If they don't, they're really cutting their own throat. Remember, this is a league that on August 11th shut down, then they came back and really left themselves no wiggle room. It's important to remember on December 19th, when the Big Ten championship game is going to be held, the rest of the league is going to be playing that day. So all they need to do is rearrange some things. It's not the biggest deal in the world. And I sense they'll do it. I'm sure it wouldn't be that difficult. But the fact that the Ohio State-Michigan game is gone is just shocking news, even in the year of COVID, when you consider that many believe that is the greatest rivalry in all of college football. There are a few people in Alabama that might dispute that, but there's no disputing the importance of that game.
Well, speaking of Alabama, and just speaking of other teams, right, in this country that have a shot at the playoff, and right now we're on the outside looking in because Ohio State occupies that fourth spot. If the Buckeyes don't get another game and they're 5-0 and they don't play in the Big Ten championship game, how should the College Football Playoff Selection Committee view Ohio State?
Well, ultimately, they may get another game on the 19th, but they won't be a champion, and I think that could hurt them. Although it's very possible this year you could see Alabama get in should Alabama lose to Florida, and you could see the same thing with Notre Dame should the Irish lose to Clemson. So that data point I don't think is going to be that critical. And I'm sure out there in the Twitter sphere some people are also saying, hey, why not play a quote-unquote play-in game to the college football playoff? What I mean by that, Randy, is this. Texas A&M, which will likely be number 5 this week, doesn't have a game either Saturday because it lost the game against Ole Miss due to COVID. I know that probably won't happen, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of speculation about why it couldn't happen.
Especially after what happened with BYU and Coastal Carolina. We've seen big games come together on short notice, and perhaps maybe, necessity driving this invention here with regard to the schedule. I want to go back to something you said about the Big Ten with regard to what is perhaps the easiest path here. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're saying adjust the schedule over adjusting the rules. It would be easier for the Big Ten to say, hey, why don't we just get a game for you here moving forward, get you that 6th game this week in place of Michigan, over basically walking back some of the rules that they implemented when they decided to come back and, as you say, left themselves just no margin for error here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be more legitimate to at least force Ohio State to do something else to get to that game. I don't think there's any doubt they're the best team in the league. They've beaten Indiana, which looks like they're very likely to be the second best team. But if they don't do that, then they leave themselves at the mercy of the committee. But if they get Ohio State into the championship game, and by doing that, they need a game this weekend, then it takes care of itself. If Ohio State beats, let's say, Wisconsin or Nebraska or somebody this weekend, and then plays Northwestern the following weekend, they're going to get into the college football playoff at that point. If they don't play this weekend, they are really rolling the dice.
The Big Ten also has this rule standing in the way of that potential, as you say, Ohio State, maybe Texas A&M, sort of a resume booster for both schools to try to get into the college football playoff. And the Big Ten has that non-conference game rule right now where only conference games are allowed for this sort of Frankenstein together season that we're working with.
And Randy, this is not like this rule has been into effect for 200 years. The Big Ten is literally making this up as they go along. They came back and put that rule in. The Big Ten normally doesn't have 8-game seasons, so I don't think it would be that difficult. And besides, they've had 2 weeks to get ready for this. Michigan has been in peril for more than a week, almost a week and a half right now. So I feel pretty certain that Kevin Warren, the Big Ten commissioner, in consultation with athletic directors around this conference, have been talking about this. Now they have to act, and they have to act pretty quickly.
There are some folks perhaps in the Buckeye State hearing that name evoked there in the Big Ten offices, and maybe some eyes are being rolled. That is Paul Feinbaum. We appreciate the insight here on SportsCenter. We're going to have our college football playoff reporter, Heather Dinich, with her insight in moments.
Back to the NFL now. Tampa returning from the bye week after back-to-back losses to the Rams and the Chiefs. They host the Vikings, who sit just behind the Bucs in the playoff standings. While their previous 2 losses came by only a combined 6 points, the offense was under much criticism. New on SportsCenter, Bruce Arians on Tom Brady.